Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Pulp Literature Autumn 2022 launch. I am going to bring my co-host, Jen, onto the screen. Hi, Jen.
Hi, good to be with you.
So it's an exciting day today because in addition to being a launch for the Autumn 2022 issue and the third book of my series, we are also announcing the winners of the Raven Short Story Contest. But before we do that, I wanted to talk about these beautiful covers that we have. And we have our cover artist here, Melissa Mary Duncan.
Hello.
How are you, Melissa?
I'm doing okay. And it's a lovely day. And what's not to like about the weather we have right now here in BC?
Yeah, it's been a gorgeous November so far. A far cry from last year.
Yes.
Let's just leave it at that.
Yes.
So
not the better.
So Melissa, you are also known on social media as Canadian Fairy Artist.
On Instagram, yep.
On Instagram. And you've been painting beautiful fantasy illustrations for quite a long time now. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how you got into illustrating and painting? And
well, I sort of came in from the back door. I was very interested in history, and I became fascinated with medieval contracts between patrons and artists, and specifically the kind of things they would stipulate in the contract. For instance, we want emerald green, and because emerald green is expensive, because it's made of ground up emeralds, but it's a horrible color. And the other avenue I came through with was I was a very sick child. I had polio, and I had to learn to walk and speak again, and that meant I spent an awful lot of time reading. And my local library had been started with donated books, and most of those had come from the turn of the century in the early 1920s, the teens, what's often called the golden age of illustration. And I just adored those images. And so when I was a broke as smoke single mom, I decided I wanted to make my daughter's bedrooms pretty, so I painted fairies and flowers on the walls, and I was hooked.
Oh. Yeah, I love those illustrations you're talking about too, the golden age.
Even how they lay down the topography.
Yeah.
Is just so beautiful.
Yeah. And painting on your daughter's walls, my mother is an artist as well, and I remember all sorts of fantastic paintings on the walls of my bedroom when I was in a rental house. When I was 5 and 6 years old, and after that we moved to a log cabin in the woods, and you couldn't paint on the walls there.
But it's a little more difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a wonderful gift for your daughters, because I'm sure it helped my love of fantasy. So this we're looking at here is the Butterfly Witch, which is the cover of our current issue. And oh, my computer's freezing here, so I hope our broadcast is going okay. So this is the cover of our current issue, the Butterfly Witch, and you've done several other issues for us. So we had our very first issue was the Beer Fairy, which was very appropriate because our motto is good books for the price of a beer. And I remember we had all our artwork, we had all our authors lined up. We didn't have cover art. And I think Devin posted something in the Academy Duello group. I think because you were looking for somebody to pose in armor for a painting or something like that.
I still want to do that painting. Haven't got to it yet. I want to do some Arthurian imagery.
Well, I think we need to put you in touch with Ben then, because he just got his full kit of armor, and he's quite thrilled about using it. So
well,
if you come to our in-person launch, which I'm hoping you'll be able to do on the 11th of December, And that's a shout out to everybody who's listening in the Vancouver area. Do come out to Academy Duello on 11th December. Ben will be there and doing demos to go along and some acting out some of the scenes in Alenia's song Chorale. But he will be there in full armor, so it might be a chance for you to meet him and maybe sketch him.
Well, that's always fun. There's nothing like sketching people.
Yeah. And then, so we had you for issue 1. We had you for issue 5, which was, I think it's Fondly Remembered Magic is the title of that one, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's actually based on one of those fairy tales I discovered in one of those books when I was a child at the library. Probably terribly politically incorrect nowadays book on fairy tales from China.
I think I had the same book, and I think I might still have it. It was a big book with a beautiful woman on the cover. Yeah, I'm going to dig that one out.
I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find it.
Oh, neat.
And then we had you again for issue 12, and this was I think it's just The Storyteller was
Yes,
the name
that's
of
the
this one.
Storyteller. Yeah.
And
a character who's deliberately ambiguous.
Deliberately ambiguous, yeah. You can't tell whether it's a he or a she or what the nationality is and what the mythology is. It's kind of a universal figure for.
That's what I was hoping for.
Yeah. Well, I think you succeeded. And unfortunately, with the cover, it covers up a lot of things. But there's a galloping dog, I think, right above the storyteller's head. Yes. And there are other figures. I can see a horse's legs.
A galloping dog and a Celtic huntsman chasing with the dogs running.
Yeah.
Chasing a stag. And at the bottom, the character is wrapped in a quilt. And on the quilt is famous scenes out of Grimm's fairy tales. We've got, Red Riding Hood and those kinds of figures. And the items in the headdress and the items on the clothing are all often images associated with mythology and folklore from different countries.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And like I said, my only regret is that we couldn't show the whole thing on the on the cover. It's the sadness about covers of books. And then
Frost and Snow.
Yeah, Frost and Snow here. I've just got somebody trying to enter the studio here. And we've got Frost and Snow, which was you were actually painting that right at the same time we got the Beer Fairy from you, and we debated long and hard which one we wanted for our first issue. So I'm glad we finally got her for our 21st issue. And I fell in love with this painting because she looks very much like one of the characters in Alenia's song, in my mind. I mean, I don't know what the characters look like in anybody else's mind when they're reading my books, but she could be the twin sister of Erdane, one of the 3 main characters in Alenia's songs. So tell me a little bit about her. Well,
actually, I was guest of honor artist at convention. And I was asked to do a piece. And so I just started drawing in the top left-hand corner, and I just drew and painted the whole thing while I was pretty much at the convention.
Well, that's one of the amazing things about you, Melissa, is that you can actually, I've seen you at conventions, start at the beginning of the convention, have a fully painted piece by the end of 2 or 3 days. And it almost comes fully formed out of your pencil and then your paints. Your process is quite magical.
It's a lot of people think because there's a fair amount of detail in my work that it must be very plotted out ahead of time, and it's not. It's terribly organic. My personal work is terribly organic, and I often am happily surprised at what appears on the page or the canvas.
Well, it's a delightful surprise. if it is a surprise, I mean, it's wonderful. And then of course, because I fall in love with your work right back then in 2013, I decided that I would love to have you as the cover artist for my books.
And I was thrilled.
Well, I'm glad. Like it's such an honor to have your work. And these are the 3 covers here. Let me just see if I can change the layout so we can see them a little bit better. There we go. And the first book there, Overture, the second book, Area, both have Elenia on it, but the third book has all 3 women, and you've just captured them so perfectly. I mean, it's like you read my mind. You're Jane, the grandmother, and Larissa, the mother. Yeah, it was just, I'm just blown away by how beautiful they are.
Oh, thank you. I like the characters. I like the strength. And I come from a family of very strong women. My grandmother was a suffragette. She was one of the ladies arrested in Britain and jailed. So I have a great affinity for strong gals, especially strong women.
Wonderful.
Who are, strong within themselves and are a force for better things in the world.
Mm. Well, I think at some point you need to write a story about your grandmother, or maybe have your husband, who is also an author, write a story about your grandmother.
Yeah. Well, I'm working on sort of an autobiography on and off. I had a very colorful family.
Right. All right. And now, before we let you go, can we just take a peek at your drawing board and see what you're working on next?
I'm working on a witch. I love drawing witches. Witches are a great deal of fun, and I never tire of them as a subject. I think they need to be reclaimed, and I also think they need to be celebrated and sometimes feared. So this is pencil drawing. I love working in black and white. And she is with, I don't know if you can see this one, but she has 2 dogs.
Oh, I can just see it. Yep.
And I sort of took inspiration from Welsh mythology. And those primitive dolls, you see it often at Halloween. They call them prims.
Right.
And they're often made up of kind of patchworks of fabric, which is something that's always dear to me anyway. I love textiles. So she's got kind of a patchwork clothing, and she's got a little tag on her that says Vintage Witch, which is a nod to those artists who make prims. And she's got 2 hounds. If this was a color image, the hounds would have bright red ears. They're often referred to, I'm not going to even attempt the Welsh, I'm sorry. But they're often referred to as the hounds of the mother, which I thought was particularly appropriate for dogs of a witch.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And she's in a foggy wood. Fog to me is another liminal time, like dawn and twilight. You can't see particularly well, but you may be able to see just a little bit here. There's this, even though these are fog shrouded trees, they are full of spirits or wee faces. She's holding a twig of oak. Oak is often used in Celtic mythology for many, many reasons. The dogs have wreaths of rowan around their necks, and she is, hopefully, if I like her when she's done, she'll be part of an exhibition I'm having at the Mission Art Gallery in November of 2023 with fellow artist Lynn Funstock.
Oh, yeah.
And it's an exhibition called Witches, Bitches, and Canny Women.
I love it. I love it.
And so, yeah. And I was just gonna, before I got in here, I saw something that I needed to fix, which is what you always do. So I'll do that here. This little section here where her dress overlaps the undergown needs a bit more shadow. So I picked up a 6B pencil and I'm going to reinforce this line. I love working in black and white. I was trained at Emily Carr as a printmaker. But setting up a studio in my condo with baths of acid, et cetera, was somewhat frowned upon by the condo board and most people with brains. So because of all the venting and things one would need. So I'm going to reinforce this line down here and increase the shadow. I was trying to, because I work very pale to dark. You often can't see what I'm working on, so this is something I figured you could actually pick up on the camera. So she has a raggedy lace collar. As I say, she was inspired very much by Prim's, but I often kind of design the clothing on my figures using traditional textiles in almost a medieval patchwork of colorful quilting. So she's got a ragged lace collar. She's got an undershift, and her overdress is pleated and gathered along a string band here.
Oh yeah, I see that. Yeah.
She's got an over jacket she's wearing.
See, that is so amazing to me. Your hand is so sure. You're holding that pencil so far back. You know, when I draw, my hand is quite close to the nib. And, you know, you're just, I mean, I guess this is years of practice.
It's actually easier to draw from the, we all think we draw with our hands, but we actually draw with our elbows.
Right.
So it's actually much simpler to hold it further back. You have a tendency to damage your hands less as the years pile up. For years, I wasn't in a position to work on my art. I really only got going about 11 years ago with being able to actually work with any kind of, daily kind of habit.
Oh.
I was a single mom, and I did a lot of retail. So I'm very, very blessed to have been able at such a late age to have my little happy successes.
Well,
it isn't over till the fat lady sings. Just if you're listening, and you think, "Oh, I'm too old to write, or I'm too old to draw, or I'm too old to do whatever you always wanted to do." Well, really, unless there's some sort of physical reason why you can't, you're not.
Well, this is it is delightful, and we've had some comments from the audience. Beautiful, and Monica W said this is so calming, and Kevin Spence replied, "It's like ASMR, just so peaceful." And we could sit here and watch you draw all day, but unfortunately, in order to get all the shortlisted people for the Raven contest on screen, or even one at a time, I'm going to have to let you go.
Well, thank you for this opportunity, and I'm so excited about the race. I'm actually going to stay long enough to watch that, even though I have to go up this afternoon.
All right. Well, you can watch it from the YouTube link, and I'm just going to pull you off. And again, thank you so much for all the wonderful art over the years, and the wonderful art that keeps coming.
Well, thank you so much. And happy November. Celebrate it for itself, not Christmas.
Yes, November is wonderful.
Yes, it's a beautiful month.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. So I am delighted to have with me from Stavanger, Norway, Leo X. Robertson, who is our judge for the Raven Short Story Contest. He was our judge last year and he was our judge this year. Hi, Leo.
Hiya.
So Leo is an author as well, and we have published him twice, and both times, coincidentally, in the same issue as we've published Robert Silverberg. So I don't know if we ever get another Bob Silverberg story again. We'll have to get another story from you, Leo, just to make it a hat trick. And you also have a new book that just came out, I saw, The Glow. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah. It's about a future in which it's like a future UK where there's lots of plastic pollution in the ocean, and there's a plastic island that a cult uses as its home for its most exalted members. And the story follows a woman who believes that her sister is out on the island and taken in by this mysterious cult, and she goes on a mission to try and find her, a very dangerous one that nobody advises her to do because nobody ever comes off this island. Nobody knows what goes on inside it. And so it was about it's about just my interest in future and being an engineer and how that's going to turn out, and my love of my own sister. So I dedicated it to her.
Oh, lovely, lovely. Well, I look forward to reading it. So now, I'm going to bring on the, one at a time, I'm going to bring on the short list in alphabetical order. So I just got to pull up my list here so I get everybody in the right order. We're still missing one of our authors. Hopefully they will make it on. And we had one author who couldn't be here. So let me announce them all first. So the short story contest shortlist in alphabetical order: Alison Stevenson with Foam, Katrina Sandilands with Revolutions, Charity Tamaseb with Rules of Engagement, Finian Burnett with God in Tokyo, Florence Rose Scollard with Choose Any Dream, Kevin Sandifer with Marty, Katie Wagner with Yakety Hex, and Mitchell J. Taves with All Our Swains Commend Her. So congratulations to all of these shortlisted authors. It's, there's always a lot of sorting and debating when we come up with our shortlist. And it's always just, it's so hard to eliminate stories from the long list, but these were the 8 stories that we felt really shone. So congratulations to all of you. I'm going to bring you on in order to read 2 sentences from your story, just to give us a little teaser. So first up, we have Alison Stevenson. Hi, Alison.
Hi.
Can you first of all, just tell us about your story, a little bit about yourself, and then read us the 2 sentences.
Sure. So Foam is about a man who, in some aspects of his life, is a planner, and in some aspects has made some mistakes and is just coming to terms with regret and whether he can, recover from some of his own mistakes. I'm Alison Stevenson. I'm a writer living in Toronto. And now I'll read the first 2 sentences of Foam. Mark's place at the Deerhorn Long Stay Suites included a kitchenette, a Formica table with its fake wood grain worn off in places, 2 dining chairs, and a plaid sofa that smelled of upholstery cleaner. At least it was clean.
That's fabulous. See how even just 2 sentences can just invite a person in. All right. Next up, we have Kate Sandilands. Now, do you prefer Katrina or Kate? You've got Kate. Doesn't matter. And that was your story was Revolutions.
That's right. It is a coming of age story in which a young woman discovers something very important about herself on a camping trip to the west coast of Vancouver Island.
All right.
And my name is Kate Sandilands, and I divide my time between Toronto and Galiano Island, BC.
Nice. That's quite a contrast.
It is. It's a hot August day, hot at least for Vancouver Island, and I'm in the middle of a bench front seat of an old Ford pickup speeding along Highway 4, somewhere between Port Alberni and the T-junction at the coast that takes you to Ucluelet if you turn left, or to Fino if you turn right. We've already passed through Cathedral Grove, where I wanted to stop because I loved going there with my parents when I was a kid.
All right. So that's a great way of introducing setting, right? Like right away, we know where you are. I mean, almost in map making detail. And you already have a little bit of history of the character because, when she was a child with her parents. So way to set the tone, way to set the place right off in 2 sentences. All right, next up, we have Finian Burnett. Hi, Finn.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm very well.
So tell us a little bit about God in Tokyo.
This is a story about a person who is out of place in about every way a person can be out of place, through gender and through the size of his body and through living as a fat trans person in crazy clothing in Tokyo.
Right.
All right. And these are the first 2 sentences.
Oh, and tell us a bit about yourself.
Oh, and my name is Finn, and I live in a very small town in British Columbia, Princeton. And I'm a college educator and a grad student trying to survive my capstone year.
All right.
All right. You can find God in the neon lights of Tokyo, my ex used to say. You can lose yourself in that city, though not you, she'd add.
Fabulous. Wonderful voice. And for everybody out there who doesn't know, Finn is a master of flash fiction. And little sneak review, we actually have a couple of Finn stories lined up for issue 37. So we'll find out today whether there's going to be another one.
Thank you.
Okay, next up we have, I lost my list there, Florence Rose Scollard with Choose Any Dream. Hi, Florence.
Hello. When I was a child, I was obsessed with Hans Christian Andersen and his stories. And I think it was the strangeness of them that attracted me. And one of the strangest stories had walnuts in it that contained little universes when they were opened, or whole stories.
Oh, yeah.
And, that inspired my story, and I hope some of the strangeness rubbed off. I'm Florence Rose Scollard, and I live in Calgary, and I'm essentially a playwright, but this is one of my ventures into storytelling.
All right. Well, can we hear 2 sentences, please?
These are very short sentences. I don't dream, she told the man in the bar. Everybody dreams.
Very short, but very inviting. I mean, that's a great way in, right? Everybody dreams. And that sentence, I don't dream. Like, immediately there's conflict. You have 2 short sentences, but there's conflict between them. And yeah, fabulous entrance into a story. Okay, next up we have Kevin Sandifer with Marty. And hi, tell us a little bit about yourself and Marty.
I think I mentioned here before that because I still have a day job, I'm a capital projects accountant for the unit school district in Champaign, Illinois. My available writing time is precious, and a number of my stories as a result come from prompts, and this is one of them. The prompt in this case was a single word encounter, and that's basically what this story is about a stray cat who was adopted by a couple, or perhaps vice versa, which is often the way of cats. And the first two sentences: she first spotted him through the kitchen window as she rinsed out her morning coffee cup. He was the biggest cat she'd ever seen, but he wasn't fat.
There again, now we're wondering why, why he's so big but not fat. Yeah, fabulous tone. And for those who don't know, Kevin has won or placed in several contests before, and the most recent one was Floaters in our summer issue. And then, it's just escaping me. The one before that we published too.
Out in the Sticks?
Out in the Sticks, yes. Two very different stories, but two wonderful stories. So it's nice to see these familiar faces keep cropping up in our short lists. It tells you you're on to something.
Hopefully.
Okay, and then next up, we have another familiar face and voice magazine, Katie Wagner. Hi, how are you?
Great, thank you.
And so the story that you shortlisted with was Yakety Hex, which is quite a title in and of itself. Do you want to tell us a bit about yourself and Yakety Hex?
It's a story about a matriarchal family of witches, and it's two misfits, Grandma Gertie and her granddaughter, which kind of reflects a bit my relationship with my grandmother, who is now passed, but I remember very fondly. We were like, like two black sheep. So I'm Katie Wagner. I'm in Maple Ridge, British Columbia, and I write speculative fiction. And the first two sentences of Yakety Hex. Everyone always remarked on how much I resembled my Grandma Gertie. She's my only proof I wasn't accidentally switched at birth.
That's a great entrance too. Immediately we have conflict, right? The only proof you weren't switched at birth. You've got that physical resemblance, but nothing else in common. So there's conflict coming. Yeah, witches are a fairly familiar theme with you, and we've published. It was Winter's Rose was the last one we published of yours, which definitely has witches in it. So I invite you to check that out. I believe that was issue 29. I think we also published a story in issue 24 as well, which was not about witches, but sort of.
Cabin fever.
strong women. You and Melissa have a lot in common. All right, and finally today, unfortunately, Charity Thomaseb with Rules of Engagement couldn't make it on today, but our last shortlisted author we have with us is Mitchell J. Taves. And I'm trying to add him to the stream here. There we go.
Hi.
Hi, Mitch.
Hi. I'm coming to you from Jessica Lake, which is on Treaty 1 and 3 lands in Manitoba. And I have a story that got a real good whipping from three terrific Manitoba writers, each of them when they were a writer in residence at either the Winnipeg Public Libraries or the University of Manitoba. And those three, I just want to mention them, are Carolyn Gray and Lauren Carter and Ariel Gordon. So a shout out to them. This story may or may not have some relation to one of Shakespeare's earliest plays, The Two Gentlemen of Verona. I don't know if anyone picked up on that allusion, but it's maybe a bit of an
Yes.
obscure one. And anyway, here's my 2 sentences. And listen carefully, because every word packs a punch. Nestor and I called her Ginger. She was the kind that tingles and burns.
Perfect. Yeah, that is a great opening because, first, Ginger is just like it's just like a girl's name, but then when you bring up the fact that ginger is pretty spicy.
Can be.
All right. I'm going to bring you back, both back off. Jen, if you are out there, you can come back into StreamYard. I know Jen was having difficulties, but if she can make it on to join us, that would be good. She was going to announce the winners, but I think what I'll do is I'll toss that ball to Leo. I'm just going to unmute you. We were getting some. Oh, you're unmuted. Good. So first up with the honorable mention.
Yes, honorable mention goes to Kevin Sandifer with Marcy. Congratulations. It's a brilliant story. My notes, I said, the more I read the story, the bigger my grin was, as I assume was its intended impact. A fur-filled delight. I would love a cat like Marty in my back garden and annoy my partner with how much love and attention I gave him. It's a spectacular piece of work. Thank you for letting me read it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Wonderful. All right. And how about our second runner-up?
Second runner-up is Mitchell J. Taves with All Our Swains Commender.
Wow. Thank you. Wonderful.
Thank you to you.
That's really great.
My notes says what I thought the most while reading this one for the first time was this must have taken so long to write. So I was not at all surprised to hear that it's been workshopped 3 times. Every sentence is packed with detail, not a word is spared. Highly skilled piece of writing with a lot to say about the way we live and how we treat one another. Can't believe such a short piece of writing left me with such memorable characters and so much to think about. It's a really brilliant story. Congrats.
Congratulations.
Excellent, Leo. Thank you, Jennifer.
All right. And then next up with our first runner-up.
First runner-up is Alison Stevenson with Foam. She's muted if she's saying something.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you to you. A lovely elegiac piece about how human it is to fail, how brave it is to accept that, and how frustrating it is that you have to. I really felt for the protagonist, perhaps because of his flaws. That's tough for a writer to achieve. I think there's so much pressure nowadays with the commercialization of fiction to write likable characters, but to write a flawed character that you're really invested in is the peak of good writing for me, and I think that's what this piece definitely achieves.
Oh, thank you. Thanks.
Wonderful. Congratulations. And I just wanted to say that we usually publish the runners-up and not necessarily in the same issue as the winner. It really is just a matter of space. So if you haven't, all of you honorable mention and runners-up, if you haven't sold your stories elsewhere, it's likely we'll be offering you a placement somewhere. So congratulations, and let's have a little drum roll, virtual drum roll. Oh, good, nice.
Sure.
Or the winner of the 2022 Raven Short Story Contest.
Yes, the winner is Katrina Sanderlands with Revolutions. she's muted if she's say hi.
I squeaked. That's probably wow. Thank you very much.
Thank you to you. I'm so pleased to get to read all these pieces. My notes for Revolutions. Exquisite descriptions transport the reader. This piece so well encapsulates that post-university time in life when you're brimming with desire to change the world without having many tools to do so. beautiful, melancholy, highly recommended. So I think with this one, it spoke to me about something that it brings up a conflict that I don't even know how to resolve, but I think about a lot, is that these people have this lovely trip on a beach and they can't stop arguing about politics. And it's like, you have to do that at some point, right? But why does that have to ruin such a lovely day and such a lovely time in their lives? And rather than resolve that, I think the piece really just displays that conflict in a really beautiful way. It's I loved all these pieces a lot. I'm so thankful to get to judge them. I don't know why I get to be honest. I mean, you're all great.
Well, you're all great, and thank you so much to everybody who entered. Thank you to the short list and the long list, and everybody who sent in stories. We really appreciate it, and it is an honor to read them all. I'm going to send you all away with my many thanks so that we can invite the rest of our authors backstage here. And I'm going to bring Jen on as well. So she's backstage now. Congratulations, everybody. And thank you so much, Leo.
Very welcome.
And there I have my co-host back. Hi, Jen.
Hi. That was like a master class in like opening lines. Like we could just compile that. It was fantastic.
It was
across the board. Yeah,
it was.
Yeah.
We should maybe do that sometime. Just put a blog post with a bunch of master of first lines, or first two sentences.
And also different too.
Yes,
and just wonderful. And congratulations to the shortlist, to the winners. Lovely.
So before we go any farther, I realize we haven't done a prize draw yet, and we haven't announced so many things that we should announce. I just got so lost in Melissa's artwork.
Yes.
But what I wanted to say is, if you haven't yet gone into Discord, if you're watching, if you haven't gone to Discord and entered the prize draw, do that now. We have a bunch of prizes to give away. The other things, I did mention the launch that's coming up December 11th in person at Academy Duello. So put that on your calendar. The tickets are on sale today. The tickets are $10, but you do get a free ebook or a $5 coupon, or free ebook or a $5 coupon. That was it. And you get tea and cookies. So there's no or and there. Plus there's sword fighting, and we might have music, and it'll just be it'll be a fun holiday party. And then the final thing I need to announce is that right now, my book, Elenia Song Chorale, is on sale for 99 cents on Amazon.com. It's on pre-order, so you buy it. You can't read it until I guess the 11th of December is when it is launched. But we do have a special on for those of you who like reading physical books, or you don't necessarily want to read an ebook. If you send us a proof of purchase of the ebook on Amazon.com, and we will have a form for you on the website that you can fill out. So if you just purchase it between now and the launch, so you do that pre-order, we will then send you a coupon for $5, good for anything in our store. So you can pick up more ebooks, you can get $5 off a print book. But we really need pre-orders really help books. So if you can throw $1 into the pot to get that ebook on pre-order now. Oh, look, my computer just froze.
I can still see you and hear you.
Okay, good.
Yeah. And okay, that's perfect, because now you're interrupted. I have to tell everybody, this is my favorite of the trilogy. I know I probably shouldn't say that, but please, you do yourselves a favor, get a copy of Chorale. It is fantastic. It's fast paced. It ties everything up. It's absolutely wonderful. So I know Jen might not toot her own horn with that, but please, and if it's like it's less than $1, I can't even believe. I mean, that's like less than you put into like a shopping cart buggy for your grocery deposit there. So like, please, and it's wonderful. It's an absolutely wonderful tale. And there's a bonus story in it.
There is. For those of you who haven't read the novella Oburkor, which was published in 3 issues, issue 29, was it 27, 29, and 31, we added it to the back of Corral. So this is the print proof of Corral without the bonus. There's actually an extra 100 pages in there. So
a penny a page.
Yeah. So yeah, we would be very grateful to everybody who pre-orders the book, just to help it get ahead with the algorithms on Amazon. I guess, and then that segue. I guess it's time for reading from Corral.
Yay. Tell us about yourself, Jen.
There are those beautiful covers from Melissa again. And I'm just going to read from the opening. If you come to the launch at Duello, I'm going to be reading a longer section. And we're hoping to have the Academy Duello demo team act it out. It's going to be a fight. It's going to be a fight scene. Hang on. So just before we go any farther, just a heads up to any authors who are up next to come on into StreamYard. Any authors who've already been on, you can leave StreamYard. So hang out in Discord. You can chat with each other there. Chat with your with all your adoring fans. So here, I guess I'll Elena's Song Chorale, verse 1, Death Song. It was Reniel and I who washed and dressed Goth's body after the 4 of us who remained took turns in pairs carrying him down the mountain pass. We had buried Allenbrie in a makeshift cairn of stones and snow in Oburkor. It pained me that we could not bring her body with us, and now Goff would not make it home either. We were back in the Ilmar at least, but far to the north, in a mining town set low against the mountains of eastern Holk. He would not lie beside the heroes of Brandishire where his heart belonged. His ribs stood out in the pale winter light of the candleless room. We were all thinner than when we had met, but lack of warm blood beneath his skin made him seem as if he'd been a corpse for longer than these 2 awful days. As I sponged the dirt and blood of Oburkor from his body, I ran an inventory of his scars, the jagged tear on his calf he had earned in his first days as a squire, the whitened pucker above his clavicle from an Ilvani arrow, countless small and large lines crisscrossing his arms and legs, some old and some far too new, and of course the one I'd given him, shallow but long, from left shoulder to right hip so many years ago. Reniel watched me run my fingers along it, her sharp, pale brows sunk in a deeper frown than usual. Was she jealous still? What do you suppose that is from? She asked. I was taken aback. They'd shared a bed, these 2. How had she not seen it, not asked him? Did he never tell you? Her eyes narrowed. He would not say. It was me, I answered, memories clogging my throat with more sadness, wishing that thoughtless act had not robbed us of 8 years of friendship. I didn't elaborate. Let her ask. But she said nothing, only continued her meticulous job of washing the left side of his body. When we had dressed and arrayed him, I took my father's knife and removed 2 locks of his hair, one for her and one for me to carry back to Rarin, along with the ashes from the fire we would build that night.
So good.
Thank you. Anyway, it's a sad way to start the book, but the book is not all sad.
It's been amazing. I just love this 3rd one of the series. I love the whole series, mind you, but so thrilled with the 3rd one here into our hands.
Oh, thank you. And thank you. I mean, both of you for all the editing and, help along the way. It really would not be the book it is without. Oh, look. And I've got some comments to moderate on the YouTube channel. Isn't that lovely?
That's great.
All right. So I'm going to turn this over to Jen now. James Salas couldn't be here, but Jen's going to read a little bit of Old Gifts by James Salas, and then we're going to have a little bit from Mel after that, from Pretty Lies.
And did we want to do a prize draw or two before, after? We want to.
Let's do after Mel reads.
Super.
So if you haven't got your entry, go into the Discord channel, go to the door prize, enter. I just have some maintenance to do on the back end here.
Okay, so I'll read a page and a bit from Old Gifts. It's our feature story by James Salas. Jim's books include the 6 volumes of the Lou Griffin Cycle, a translation of a novel, St. Glingland. I don't know if I got that right. A landmark biography of writer Chester Himes, 5 collections of poetry, and he also wrote the source novel for the Cannes-winning film Drive. And I believe that that novel has actually been re-released in an anniversary issue. And we were thrilled to receive this superhero story from the renowned crime writer. It's Old Gifts. When she was young, which was a long time ago, my mother was a superhero. They'd show her the maps or building plans or whatever, and she'd run over there at close to the speed of sound and save the day. She saved so many days, Dad used to say, they had to add another year onto the calendar. She and Dad and my teachers, since they were all old too, told me about this. I don't remember any of it because most of it happened before we were born, me and brother Liam. That was when she settled down to take care of us instead of everyone else. We did find her old costume in the back of a closet with birthday and Christmas presents people gave her still in their boxes. The costume was pink and shiny like quartz. Moths or something had eaten holes in it. Twins have the same DNA, right? But Liam got whatever the hero stuff is, and I didn't. Not a shred of it. He's grown now, both of us are, and he claims he doesn't have anything like that. No stupid damn superpowers and never did. I'm just like you, he says, just like everyone else. Says he doesn't remember all those nights with the 2 of us together in our cute little crib that Dad made, me reaching out to grab Liam's leg to keep him from floating up, out and away, or how he used to open the window while we lay there across the room to let the horned owl we considered our pet come in and visit. Guess we've both floated out and away since. The world's a different place. And there you go.
Oh, I love that story.
Me too. Me too. It looks like Jen is off tending to some other business. So maybe Mel, you could tell us a little bit about your story.
This penultimate section of Pretty Lies called I Can See for Miles. And it's back in the sun-drenched summer of 1974. And inspired by the story of Orpheus and Eurydice, Jenny Riley is searching for re-entry to the ghost world in order to bring back her dead boyfriend, Joey. And these attempts are putting her and others into mortal danger. And increasingly, she's threatened by the workings of a ghost named Moira, who's got her own reckless agenda for life after death. Chapter 21. Nobody could stay alive underwater this long. Jenny hung somewhere between the surface and the depths, her struggle squeezed out of her by Moira's strong hands. She was drowning. Possibly she was already drowned. She couldn't remember when she'd last breathed. And as she'd already established, no one could hang halfway between the seabed and the surface this long. Although if her lungs were filled with water, wouldn't she sink? She was so cold that she couldn't feel the water. Hold on, she told herself, just a little longer. She'd said these words to Joey in the steaming wreck of the car. Help is coming. And help had come. But by then, Joey was already dead in the front seat of the yellow Zed. If it comes too late, can you even call it help? She whispered. A bubble of air tickled her lips as it escaped, touched her nose, and rose away from her. She wondered whether her next thought might be her last, and so she thought about Joey, about herself and Joey when they were small and daring, perched facing one another on their next door windowsills, small feet dangling far above the ground. They used to push their thumbs against their eyelids, calling out the colors they saw exploding in their eyeballs. She saw them now against her lids. She murmured, I see swirls of color, red more than anything, red everywhere, and flashing blue. Moira said, I see white. I always see white like a wedding veil. White like seagulls. This was quite a ghost world where she could speak and hear underwater. Jenny pictured her words floating from her mouth in small silver bubbles up to the surface of the sound. Moira's hands loosened a little. Like whitecaps on water? Like the sides of a great white ship when you jump off it? Shut up. Moira pinched her. Or what? Or you'll drown me. Jenny's mouth curled upwards. Maybe irony was the last emotion she would feel. She would float away from life in the arms of an ironic thought, held underwater by a dead woman, if a person could die in the world where dead people lived.
Fantastic. So I just love Jenny. She's just such an interesting character. Her motivations are so well drawn out, and her thoughts are so well drawn out.
Thanks,
You
Jen.
really feel like she's a real person. And it's we're getting close to the end of this. We're getting close to the end of this saga, so the tension is ramping up.
See those characters.
Yeah.
Is this going to appear as a novel, Mel? All of the we'll get this as like a novel.
Yes.
Oh, I sure hope so.
Yeah.
Cover of it.
And speaking of novels, Mel's novel, The Extra, was just released in September. So again, that's something we will have.
Yeah.
And we will have copies of that available at our in-person launch. It is also a weighty tome. You can see that. There we go. It's a fabulous read, and it's getting great reviews from all the early readers on Goodreads. So thank you if you're one of those people who've left reviews. Really helps sell books to have reviews up there. And it seems like people are genuinely loving Frankie, The Extra, which I do too. So let's welcome back Brooklyn. I'm just going to change the layout here so we can see you better. Hi, Brooklyn.
Hello.
So Brooklyn is one of our editors. She's probably the person you deal with if you're dealing with subscription problems and things like that. But you'll also get emails from her dealing with launches. And oh, Mel went away. Oh, there she is. So while I've got all three editors on with me now, I just wanted to do a little prize draw. And let's just pulling up. All right. So there's only 10 people entered in the door prize. Remember, get your names into that door prize so that you can win. The authors, you are allowed to enter as well. So I will use my polyhedral die here. And the first name is number 2, Finn Burnett. So what does Finn win?
Finn wins a digital issue.
A digital issue of the current issue.
Yes.
Yeah. So digital copy of issue 36. I can't believe we're at issue 36 already.
I know.
I keep calling it issue 26. Like, no, that was like 2.5 years ago. Something happened to time here.
Yep.
And let's do another one as well. And this one, number 3.
Allison Stevenson.
Allison. And what does Allison win?
A digital copy of The Extra.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
Okay. So congratulations. Put your, you can send your contact info to Brooklyn, just to make sure she knows which one, where to send it. And messaging is, Brooklyn is messaging you on Discord the best way to get it over?
Yeah, Discord would be great. Or if you have my email, you can send it there as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you got an invitation, if you're an author at the launch, then you probably have Brooklyn's email there. Great. All right. Let's bring on our next author, Alex Kitt.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good.
So we've published Alex before, but that was as a poet. So this is the first story of yours we've published. Let me call up. Let's do this properly. I'll call up your bio. So you're a writer and a poet born in Red Deer, with a BFA in creative writing from UBC. And it was Complicated Grief was the poem that we had. It was just 2 issues ago in the spring issue. And you also say you have work in White Wall Review. Is that poetry or prose?
Prose, a short story.
Okay, great. And you're currently in Montreal?
Yeah, just moved after my degree.
All right. Are you being snowed in at the moment? Or?
Yeah, there was, it's funny enough, after our sound check, a wood pulper came and parked right outside my window and started to work on a burnt down tree out back. But then it started to blizzard, and so they stopped. So the weather's on my side right now.
Okay. All right. So tell us a little bit about your story, Can on a String.
So the short spiel is that it's a brother and sister who haven't seen each other in years, and they return home to their hometown to care after their uncle, who they've recently found out has gotten dementia.
Right. Okay. And can you give us a little bit of it?
Yeah. I'll just read from the first page onwards. Can on a String. We moved back to our old town, my sister Lynn and I, and shoved our lives between the bedstands, boxes, and dust of Uncle's home. That first week, I drew faces in the dust, and sometimes I'd laugh at what I came up with, or I'd laugh at the way one drawing might look up at me. Laughter was good, but now I see how all those faces were me spread out. My laughter in the attic and my sorrow next to the washer-dryer. 2 months passed before anything began to change. 2 more months of dust, layering and layering. Lynn would use the lint roller on her head before she left for work. Dear Miss Trebo, I'm writing to you for the exploration geologist position at Kingfin Metals Corp. I believe that I may be a great fit for the position because I am highly motivated to gain experience in exploration field geology as a newly registered geologist in training. I recently completed my Bachelor of Science degree, majoring in Earth and Atmospheric Sciences at the University of Alberta, and I'm keen to integrate myself into a career path that I'm truly passionate about. The fact is at this moment, if someone would hire me, I could be in a gold mine or on the side of a glacier. In an interview, one company asked if I knew how to shoot a rifle in case of bears. I could be a bear rifle person on the side of a mountain, but I'm not. I could be with the friends I made in uni, the ones who rushed from class to class, complaining about their grogginess, the weather, petty things, which are the best things in life to complain about. These complaints mean their lives are bright, their futures are unafflicted and open, and I could be with them moving forward, but I'm not. I'm home. Uncle got dementia. It was only Lynn and me, so we came home.
That was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about the backstory, like what caused you to write that? Like what?
Well, I grew up in Red Deer, which is kind of a smaller city, and I think maybe I was just lucky to have so many instances where people would scream out of cars at me or at my friends or people passing by. So I had that little thing in the back of my mind, as well as a few years ago, my grandmother was diagnosed with dementia, and I think I wanted to explore not just that, but maybe the lives of the characters around that situation. So I think those were the curiosities that kind of led me to write.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, I know that small town feeling. I grew up in one. And what are you working on now?
I'm just working on short stories. Feels great to kind of be done my degree and kind of have full reign over my time and my curiosity, and just be able to kind of write exactly what I want to be writing at the moment.
That's awesome. I hope you'll send more work our way.
I plan to.
Excellent. Wonderful. Well, we will look forward to that. And to those out there in listener land, you can read the rest of that excellent story when the fall issue comes out. All right, I will let you go, Alex. Do hang around backstage in Discord if you're there. Perfect. And thank you again.
And thank you just for all the precision and care with the edits. And yeah, you guys have been a great home for my work. And I think this story definitely found the right place. So
that's wonderful.
Yeah, just thank you.
That was Jen. Jen edited that one. So
I love these characters. I love them more the more I spent with them. Oh yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think Mel, thank you for the Canon string drawing too. That's just beautiful.
It is nice. Yeah, here, let me pull that up again.
Alex, I'm not sure if it's come out yet, but there is a blog post coming up with it on our website, so you can share that with all your friends. It's got a little snippet. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah. I'll see you guys later.
Thanks, Alex. All right. And then another, oops, that was my slide. I got my order wrong here. Another author who couldn't be here today is Jason Burnham, but Brooklyn is going to talk a little bit about his story and read us a little snippet.
Yes. So Jason P. Burnham, his bio here, he loves to spend time with his wife, children, and dog. His work has previously appeared in Mixtape, 1986, Nature, Futures, and Strange Horizons, among others. You can find him on Twitter at @andgalen. And this story is called Ambiance. I was ecstatic when the apocalypse hit. If I had paid attention to the news before it stopped broadcasting, I probably could have figured out what turns people into zombies, but it just doesn't interest me. What does interest me? Zombie vacated homes. It's like I'm the star in my very own apocalyptic best crib in town. The judges have spoken, Mixed Brain Eater. You have the best crib in Zombie Town. The only things hampering my unbridled domicile debauchery are the vexatious vagabonds that want my gray matter for a snack. Today, just 2 stiffs stand in my way of the amazing mansion down the road. Back off, I whisper shout. Sometimes it works. Grrr. What a boring thing to say for the entirety of an unlife. I run into the nearest house, a total design disaster. Gross. Another Yoda dressed as Santa Knickknack. That's 8 this week. Don't people tire of having the same garbage as everyone else? Grrr, comes the zombies' call from behind. Right, weapons. I hated weapons pre-apocalypse, and guns have become even more distasteful now because they summon the hordes. I should stop being surprised at how prominently displayed the guns are in some houses. This one has a rifle and a machete under a buck's taxidermied head. A bit on the nose. One shambler has fallen in the foyer onto the god-awful faux tiger rug. The zombies Spilling offal can only improve the ambiance. I picked up the machete. Zing! Off with their heads. I wipe sticky black residue onto the orange and black striped fake. On the bright side, this travesty of a house is going to make that mansion at the end of the road seem even more spectacular. This may well be the crown jewel of vacant house voyeurism. If television still existed, that's what I would call my show. And maybe that's a good spot to finish off. Oh, you're muted, Jen.
Sorry, muted there. That was a great teaser for that story. Thanks, Brooklyn.
My pleasure.
All right, let's do another prize draw. And before I roll, why don't you tell me what the next prize is?
A digital copy of Corral. Yay.
Oh, all right. Okay, and that goes to number 6.
Brenda Carr.
Brenda Carr. Oh, well, Brenda's already bought the I know she's already got the print one ordered. So Brenda, if you have a friend you'd like to send that digital copy to, do let us know, or let Brooklyn know. And what's the next prize we've got?
A print issue. Probably the current.
Of the current,
yeah.
issue 36.
30.
And that is also number 6. So Brenda, you get a print issue as well. All right. Next up, let me just so we another author who wasn't able to be here is Pete Barnstrom. He's just finishing up work at the moment. So I was going to give a little taste of that. He wrote a story called Dangereux, which the French speakers among us will immediately go, shouldn't it be les dangereux? But it is dangereux as a menu item. So the lines sang complete complaints against the rocks overhead. The rope through Henri's harness was tight, but he was well below its tensile strength. Henri paid the sounds no mind. Neither did he worry about Poco, who was feeding out the rope from above. Henri outweighed Poco by at least 20 kilos, and a tumble down the walls of the rugged cliff into the primordial jungle below would be an end most unpleasant. But Poco's devotion was absolute. It was not the first time Henri had placed his life in Poco's hands, and he trusted it would not be the last. No, what concerned Henri was the sky. And I am going to leave it at that. Oops, I forgot to put the slide up. There you go. There is the cliff. And as the title implies, you can see some eggs up there. But you will need to read the full and quite funny story to find out what's happening with those eggs. All right. So next up, we have Cheryl Scory-Suma, who was the runner-up for the 2022 Bumblebee Flash Fiction Contest. Cheryl, welcome.
I hope you can hear me.
We can.
Great. Glad to be here.
So, so let me just here. I'll read out your bio and do a proper introduction. So, your fiction, creative nonfiction, poetry have been appeared in publications in the U.S., UK, and Canada. And there's a long list of magazines here. And you've also had stories placed in over 30 competitions. So this is almost like a profession for you, placing in competitions.
Doesn't pay well, but it's a lot of
fun. And which included the Bumblebee short fiction or flash fiction earlier this year. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your story?
Sure. And I'll just apologize. I'm fighting a horrible cold, so I may clear my throat a few times, but I'll try not to ruin the video. My story is about another look, actually a lot like Alex's earlier, Alzheimer's. So for me and my background, I'm actually a speech language pathologist in my former life before I decided to do writing in my retirement. And so I worked with a lot of Alzheimer patients, and my mother-in-law actually battled it for about 8 or 9 years before she passed away. So it was sort of a combination of different people that I dealt with in my life who struggled with it. And I just thought it'd be a nice challenge to write a really short piece about it. And that's how this story sort of came about.
All right. Well, why don't you give us a little, here, I'll just change the layout here. And yeah, give us a little taste.
Okay. So the title is, oh, you've got it there, Adrift Off the Shore of Alzheimer Island. She stumbles, a newborn in the insidious haze. Her sunset on life's shore is now crowded with unfamiliar moon faces. Once, she enjoyed traveling to new places, savoring unique twilights. She had been a supporter of the arts, an attempted poet, a connoisseur of life. Now she's a traveler lost. The music she once loved has discolored within. A spiraling whirlpool, muddled and hard to hear. It has taken with it her recollections of lilac dreams, of eyes that knew how to smile, of those who once asked her to dance. Adrift, she whispers to no one. Each night she lives variations of the same dream, alone in a rowboat as she weaves stories and poems to share with the sea. She knows she should pick up the oars and return to shore, but they are rebellious in her hands. So instead, she drifts. In the day, she continues to flow sideways until the strangeness fades, then tries to navigate the emotions that flow stronger than her dream's tides. She imagines they crawl up to grasp her brittle ankles, to drag her pain along the shore. This is how she floats, down congested passageways filled with anonymity and caregivers that do not know her. If only she could remember, her past love struggles through every visit. Yet he stays by her side, hoping that the trust they once shared, still entwined within his heart, will give her comfort. Sadly, the stories of him have fled her mind, and he is frightened when she comes to call. And he frightens her when he comes to call. She screams and buries her face in her arms. Make him go away. Why do strangers bother her? Why do they make her go here, do that, sit down? You must eat something. She hears but pretends not to. Her once glorious smile now stitched firmly shut to keep her pain from spilling nonsense between her teeth. Her lips understand that she does not know any longer. And I'll leave it there.
Thank you so much, Cheryl.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's anyone who's had relatives dealing with Alzheimer's, I mean, you really feel that, and it's different for everybody, but it was a very gentle and thoughtful look into it.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. And what are you working on now?
I'm actually in a little bit of a break, but I've got a lot of things up and coming in the future. So if people, not Alzheimer's, but I'll do a quick plug for a charity that I'm in a book of. A Piece of Mind was recently part of the Amy McRae Award, which is for goes to ovarian cancer research. So the writers don't take anything; it all goes for the charity. And I do have a piece as part of the shortlist coming out in the spring. So people watch my Twitter. If they find me there, I'll be bringing that up when it comes out in the spring, and we'd love everyone's support. So that was the last thing I wrote recently, but I'm hoping to get back into it in the near future.
Can you say the name of that one more time?
Sure. It's the Amy McRae Award.
Okay.
And it's for creative nonfiction. So
yeah, put that in the chat in the YouTube.
Sure. Yeah,
so
it's a wonderful cause. My mom actually just recently passed away. That's why I haven't been writing of ovarian cancer, but I was really thrilled to get a piece actually on the short list and be part of that effort. It's a wonderful story if you look into the story behind the person who inspired it.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. Yeah, no, do put that link up. If you put it in the Discord as well as on the YouTube comments, that would be great. And then
I appreciate. Yeah, and they'll have to watch because it's not out till the spring, but they can certainly watch for me, and I'll share it. Well, thanks again, guys. I appreciate it so much. And I was glad to find you were so patient with me getting around to deciding about putting this piece into which issues. So I appreciate.
We wanted it. We hung on.
So I really, really appreciate your patience, and I can't wait. I mean, I've sent things to you guys for a couple of years. I'm really excited to appear for my first time with you guys.
And do send us an email, maybe a reminder as it gets closer to publication of that anthology, because we can put that in. So we send out newsletters, and we love to share author news. So anytime there's news any of our authors ever have, you send it to us, and we'd love to be able to share it with our newsletter subscribers.
Oh, I appreciate it so much. And I'm sure the organizers will too. That's great. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you, Cheryl, and we'll hope to see something from you again.
I definitely will send something. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. And our next author is Sean Bird. Oh, we're getting some sun.
What is going on there?
There.
Oh.
In a haze of rainbow light to go with your rainbow hair. Hi, Sean. How are you?
Hello. Yeah. Good to see you.
So Sean has been a friend of the magazine for some time, and this next story that we finally got around to publishing, we held on to it for quite a while because it was a little bit seasonal, and by the time we'd read it and decided we wanted it, was at the point in the publishing cycle where we didn't want to put it out in the spring or something like that. So thank you for being patient with us, Sean, as we finally got this one to light. And a little bit about Sean. She's a teacher, an author, and a poet. And your best known book, I guess, is Murdering Mr. Edwards, which was, I think, nominated for an Arthur Ellis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Novella category.
Yeah. And then you have a new series coming out, Grace Awakening, coming out next year.
Yeah, so Grace is an old one. It was actually my first novel. It was nominated for a Whistler Independent Book Award back in the day, back in 2014 or 2016 when they first came out. The book itself came out in pieces in 2010, 11, and 12. But it's been pulled from publication, but there's two more in the wings relating to that series. So they'll all be coming out somehow in the next 2023, 2024. And we'll
well, that's exciting.
Yeah. So those are modern life, Calgary and the shoe shop with Greek mythology mixed in. So they're quite fun. They're like kind of Twilight meets Percy Jackson. So
oh, wow.
A little fun.
So tell us a little bit about Caught Dead.
So Caught Dead is a little zombie tale that's really about how grief is love missing the object of that love.
Right. It is quite a beautiful story despite being a zombie tale. So can you give us a little taste of it?
Sure. Dr. Isabella McCrae had been dead 17 days when she found herself compelled to break out of the hand-carved pine box and claw her way through dirt. Now, here she was, standing beside a dozen dirt-smeared folks who'd obviously shared the compulsion. She shook her head to clear her thoughts and glanced down at the grave from which she'd just emerged. A shiny headstone declared her name and dates. Right. She remembered dying. It had not been a pleasant experience. She looked around at the other folk standing beside her in various states of decay, and the light went on. I'm a zombie, she said. She looked down at her hands. Her manicure had been destroyed by the crawl out from the ground, and the skin was looking a little desiccated. It was not too terrible, though, compared to the folks around her. Hey, she said to a teenage boy standing at the next grave. She tapped him on the shoulder. This is cool, hey? We're in our own zombie flick. He stared vacantly ahead. That was when she noticed he was missing the back of his head. She theorized aloud, perhaps I should talk to someone with a brain. A few rows over, she could see a middle-aged lady who seemed to have a complete body. She looked like a PTA mom, someone used to helping out in the church basement. Isabella started to walk in that direction, but instead of the smooth, confident stride she was used to, her legs assumed a dragging shuffle. She furrowed her brow in annoyance and felt the skin on her forehead settle into rows. "No!" she growled and spread the wrinkles back out with her hands, holding the skin spread until she felt it move back into position, much as she'd smoothed fondant over Will's birthday cakes. She'd spent her whole life fighting wrinkles. She wasn't going to tolerate them now, even if she was dead or undead, whatever. By this point, she'd arrived next to the PTA mom. "Hello," she said, extending her hand and smiling in her best professional manner. "I'm Isabella McCrae, Dr. Isabella McCrae, formerly of Hillborough Glen Reconstructive and Plastic Surgery Clinic." The lady, in her fake blue silk dress, fake pearls, and what looked suspiciously like fake hair, did not even look at her. Up close, it was clear that she'd been underground for a while. Chanel number 5 was not going to do anything to resolve her malodorousness. Her dark hair was puffy on top, flat on the bottom, and brilliantly shiny. Isabella looked down at the headstone next to the lady. Margaret Harris Jones, 1935 to 2005, beloved wife and mother. "Margaret?" Isabella tried. No response. "Alrighty then," said Isabella, wondering belatedly why she'd felt the need to add Hillborough Glen to her introduction. She'd read that death was the great equalizer, but here she was trying to use the name of her prestigious clinic for points on the afterlife social hierarchy. The neighborhood hadn't even existed in 2005. How could it mean anything to someone like Margaret Harris Jones? She attempted to arrange her face into a professional expression. "Well, excuse me then, I'll just go visit someone else." Margaret Jones just stared into the distance without even a flicker of the eyes to indicate that she'd seen or heard Isabella. Isabella pondered. Perhaps she'd have better luck with someone with a brain, but who hadn't been dead for 20 years. There you go.
Oh, wonderful. It is so much, it is so delightful when you read it. Like it's funny when you read it on the page, but it's even better when you're reading it out loud. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. A little bit of drama teacher experience.
Exactly. It is, it's so apropos that this is a plastic surgeon who's like trying to put her face back together again as she's dead. So what inspired you to write this story?
Well, this is an interesting one because what happens to me usually is a character will just arrive, and so I start writing and I don't know where it's going. So literally the first line of her, about her crawling out of the grave and realizing she was dead was the first thing that was there. And I wrote 3/4 of the story, and then I had no idea why this zombie horde was shuffling through downtown. Not a clue. So I went on to Twitter and I asked people, why is this zombie called? What is the situation? What do you think is the reason? And I had, 30 or 40 people threw out ideas.
Wow.
And the one that came to fruition was like, oh, of course, that's the one. Of course, that's why.
So this is a way to get past writer's block.
Yeah.
And I think it was like 3 years in the process. And then I thought, I have that little story. I should look it up. I remember I didn't have the end, but I think this one would be a good one for pulp literature. I should send it to them. So I went into my files to pull it up and see, okay, can I figure out the ending? And realized I had already written that ending. I remembered going to Twitter and asking, but I didn't remember the writing. That's my brain injury. So I think that was in between, just like my brain injury had been in the middle of that process.
Right.
So I had no memory of actually doing the writing. I just remembered I'd asked on Twitter and needed to finish it. And I have finished it. So then it was like, yay, I can send it. So I did. And then I was very, very, very patient.
Well, that's fabulous. And it is, it is a great ending, and it is a good. It's like very appropriate and very heartwarming. You know, despite the humor, or maybe even because of the humor, I don't know. But it's a lovely balance of heartwarming and funny.
Thank you.
Yeah. And what are you working on next?
Got a couple of things. Well, aside from the Grace thing, I've got some anthologies coming out that Lintuson Press, my press, is doing. We've got a call right now for sci-fi piece, and so that'll be over Christmas. And I'm also playing with some Finnish mythology. I was a Rotary Youth Exchange student in Finland, monta vuotta sitten, as they say, many years ago. You can imagine how many years ago. And I've always wanted, there's quite a large Finnish community in the Shuswap, and I've wanted to play with Finnish mythology in this diaspora, how do you say it? Here
I
in
usually say
Shuswap.
diaspora. I've seen it said.
I'm not sure. Diaspora, yeah. Anyway, so we have quite the Finnish communities here, and so I'm playing with a story that integrates Finnish mythology here, and
neat.
Hope to go to Finland and do some work with that with a friend who's a Finnish poet who lives also here in the Shuswap, and we're kind of thinking of ways that we can incorporate it together. Oh, it's going to be fun.
Nice. Oh yeah. Well, and that's great because, you know, it's a mythology that hasn't been overdone. Like, you know, Greek, Roman, Norse, that's all been done to death. We don't need any more stories. I mean, we'll
get them.
but something from, you know, Finnish mythology we don't get as much of. So
well, Tolkien really liked the Finnish mythology.
Yeah.
He used quite a bit of it in Lord of the Rings, but it's so well hidden that unless you know Finnish mythology, you have no idea.
Yeah. Yeah. That's wonderful. Well, we'll look forward to seeing something come out of that.
Me too.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, and it's been a pleasure to chat. And we'll hope to see you at the next conference.
Yes.
Whenever.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
So thanks for giving Caught Dad a home, and I look forward to getting my next issue of Pulp Lit in the mail.
Yep, it'll be on its way soon. All right, take care, Sean. All right, let's do another prize draw, and then we'll get a couple of other little snippets from stories. So, what do we have next up?
Yeah, it's a $2 off coupon for the bookstore.
$2 off coupon.
Yes.
And that is number 7.
Monica Wang.
Monica. All right. And then let's do one more. What do we have?
A $5 off coupon.
$5. And that is number 1, Marley Vlock. So Marley, if you're listening, send your email over to Brooklyn, and she will get that coupon out to you. All right. So Jen and Brooklyn, you have a couple of stories to read from authors who aren't here.
Yes.
So let me get the next slide up. And change my layout here. There we go. I love that illustration. By the way, all these black and white illustrations are by Mel Anastasia, and she is just so talented. The magazine would not be the beautiful thing it is without her. But this one is one of my all-time favorites.
So this is for The Dumpum Dog by Anna Zumbro. Anna Zumbro is a short fiction writer with stories in the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction, Nature, Daily Science Fiction, and other publications. When not writing, she teaches high school English and journalism. And you can find her on Twitter at Anna Zumbro, and also at her website, annazumbro.com. This is The Dumpum Dog. I arrived home after a 12-hour shift to the yaps of a small dog. I didn't have a dog. May, I called. Do we have company? The dog bounded out of the kitchen, skidding to a stop at my feet. A robot dog. Blue ovals blinked in its black eye screens as it rose on its hind legs to jump on me, its front paws only reaching my knees. Chrome-plated toenails grazed my scrubs. Hi, Alicia. The dog's voice was youthful and energetic. So not just a robot dog, but a robot puppy. I patted its head and tried to remember where I'd seen this brand before. Hey, buddy, where's May? That's why I'm here. Let's snuggle on the couch and I'll tell you all about it. May's piano synthesizer and recliner were gone. The dog's eye displays were adorably wide, sympathetic. I've seen ads for you. You're a Dumpum dog. Oh, you don't need to call me that. You can call me by my name, Fin. Fin? Fin. Fin, like the end. May, I shouted, what the hell? I don't have time for these cheap jokes. I'm not a joke. I'm not cheap either. Second from top of the line. May recognized that after 15 months, she owed you more than the base model. The dog rose on its hindquarters again. This time its head came level with mine. I had sunk to the floor. Oh yes, tears can be healing. Let it out. I've already ordered burritos.
It's such a great story.
It is. It's a really great story.
It is. It's quite funny. And again, funny and heartwarming at the same time.
Yeah.
Which is always nice. And
I'm sort of torn between wanting to, get to meet a Dumpum dog,
but not wanting
nobody
to
really wants to have. I'll take Mel's illustration.
Yes,
that's good.
There we go. That's as close as we need to get to one. All right. So, Brooklyn, you were going to read a little bit from Once Upon a Time in Camelot, which was the winner of the 2021 Jack White Storyteller Award. So for those of you who don't know, the Surrey International Writers Conference does a contest every year, and we publish the winners and runners up. So this was last year's winner. And Brooklyn, do you want to talk a little bit about it?
Definitely. So G.D. Litke is an award-winning author who writes historical fiction, short stories, and travel articles. He's also been a teacher, a contract negotiator, and the mayor of Penticton, BC. An avid athlete, musician, and world traveler, he thrives on the Okanagan lifestyle with his wife, Kendra. Once Upon a Time in Camelot was chosen by Judge Deanna Gabaldon as the winner of the Surrey International Writers Conference 2021 Jack White Storytellers Award, as you mentioned. And here is Once Upon a Time in Camelot. At the breakfast table, Mom outlined her I Love Jackie sign with a red felt marker and spoon Cheerios into her mouth between strokes of the pen. President Kennedy was coming to Dallas. I don't see what all the fuss is about, Dad said, as he spread peanut butter on his toast. Kennedy puts his pants on one leg at a time like the rest of us. He took a bite and chewed thoughtfully, a twinkle in his eye. Sometimes more than once a day, if you catch my drift. Mom almost choked on her cereal. You're such a card. That's my job, he chuckled. I was puzzled because that was not his job. He was a bartender in Mr. Ruby's nightclub, not a drifter or a card. Those were the facts. Like Detective Joe Friday on Dragnet would say, just the facts, ma'am, just the facts. I never miss an episode. Every Saturday at 7 p.m. Kennedy says we'll have a man on the moon by the end of the decade, Mom continued. Isn't that exciting? Impossible, Dad gruffed. He's a swell guy, but he's a dreamer. Grandma says the president is a liar, I blurted. She says the moon is in heaven and we can't go there till we die. Mom looked at me as if I'd come home from school with a bloody nose again. Oh, honey, she sighed in her sweetest voice. The president of the United States would never lie to people. Your grandma's just getting old. Someone in my family was not reporting the facts. Now, I took a break from stacking boxes in the book warehouse and craned my neck out the 6th-story window to see people gathering below near Dealey Plaza. They were expecting to see the president and his wife drive by in a few minutes. Police sirens were getting closer, clearing the way for the motorcade. My fingers fluttered against my leg. I didn't mind the low growl of the Harleys ridden by Dallas police, but the screaming pitch of their sirens made me feel like something bad was about to happen. Something like last month. The principal had talked to my mother from behind his desk as she sat on the edge of her chair, twisting an embroidered hanky in her hands. She dabbed at the corner of her eyes to keep the mascara from running. He was wearing a Daffy Duck tie. All I heard coming out of his mouth was, "Quack, quack, quack. I hate cartoons." But he also had a tarantula in a glass aquarium near the window. Cool. Tarantulas can grow up to 11 inches in diameter and live for 25 years. They're poisonous enough to kill a small dog or cat. "He can graduate in 2 years," my mother pleaded. "Give him a chance." And I think that's a nice cliffhanger to end that off on.
All right. Thank you, Brooklyn. So that is an alternate universe story, which if you like history, you're going to like that one. All right. And Jen, I believe you were going to talk about our the Magpie winning stories, which are also in the current issue.
Yeah, so Kara Waterfall took both the first place and first runner-up. Kara Waterfall has appeared in pulp literature before. We published her poem Vessel, which won an honorable mention in the 2021 Magpies. We published that in issue 33. And then Hummingbird Elegy won the Editor's Choice in the 2020 Magpies, and that appears in issue 28. If you'd like to watch Kara read from her prize-winning poems, I believe the previous launch, she joined us. Maybe it was the one before. They're starting to all come together. But the first runner-up was for Harvest, and Renee Sarajini-Saklikar, our judge, had this to say: "Mastery of the short line tercet gives us Van Gogh and a poetic monologue. The language is rich with painting and image, and the claiming of the confessional I is enlivened by the strength of sound and rhythm." And Kara's winning poem, Grief Body, Renee described as a beautifully constructed palindrome line poem with a haunting atmosphere made possible by precise syntactical construction. So a palindrome poem, it basically works, one way, and then it flips course and all the lines recur in the opposite order. So it's quite a feat. And Renee mentioned that the imagery and sound effects arise from strong verbs, dense with word associations that keep us returning to this lovely elegy that captures attention subtly and with echoes that endure. So you can read those. Yeah.
They are beautiful poems.
They are beautiful poems.
And Kara Waterfall always has a strong showing in the Magpie. She's been honorable mentions before. This time it felt like, as we see her name coming up again and again, and then see it come up twice for the winner and the first runner-up was quite magical.
It is, and the final judges. I mean, we read these, whether it's the poetry or the short stories. They're all read blind. They're judged blind. We go to great lengths to make sure names don't appear. It's remarkable to see what always seems to kind of come to the surface.
It is, So we have no idea who the writers are before we pick out our short list, and the final judge has no idea who they are either. So, like I said, it is when you see two by the same author come up, it's quite magical. But there were 3 winners for the 2021 or 2022 Magpie Awards, and our second runner-up is with us today. Hi, Kevin.
Hi.
And that's got to win the award for one of the best titles.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're so brave to come back and read this for us again. This poem. It's so wonderful, and the way that you work your way through it. I mean, it's just wonderful.
Thank you. it's part of a larger manuscript that I'm working with. So I've been tweaking it and altering it in the context of this bigger manuscript that thinks about language and different languages. And
Wonderful.
yeah, so I mean, you need a big German word in a collection of poems that deal with language in different languages, of course.
So what is that book? I know you're going to be reading this, but could you do that work that you're talking about? Is that going to appear then, as I think you said, as a book? Is that what are we going to get a treat with all these? We don't know.
I hope so. There's one poem that appeared in Best Canadian Poetry 2020, I think, 2020 or 21, and it's called "The Rain Will Fall Like." The rain will fall like rods on the hillside in Sweden or something. And it plays with different idioms for heavy rain in different languages around the world.
Wonderful.
Rain, married man in Spain, which idiom, and cobblers in Germany. So, there are all these, there's a poetry in everyday language. Emerson says that language is fossilized poetry. So these idioms that exist that we make use of, well, they contain a poetry that we forget because they become so functional and then cliched. And of course, a poet's job, or any creative writer's job, really is to help dust off those pieces of language that we forget have other meanings. And
that is wonderful. Yeah.
So that's something that interests me, and I'm looking into other languages, and I've been surrounded by non-English speaking people my whole life in many different capacities. Growing up with OMAs and OPAs, working in the ESL world for 20 years, teaching English as a second language. I worked with students from around the world.
Wow.
That reminds me, have you been listening to Thompson Highway's Massey lectures, which were just broadcast this week?
No, I haven't, but thank you for that tip.
Oh, it's on Ideas. Go to the Ideas podcast. And it was 5 lectures, so Monday through Thursday, just this last week. And he talks so much about language and how English is the language of the head and French is the language of the heart, and Cree is the language of all the lower parts that we can't talk about on the radio. But he's so funny. And I mean, it's just, so it's delightful with that in my head then to have you talking about, language as fossilized poetry. And yeah, it makes such a difference how, even if a word means the same thing in one language as another, it doesn't really. Yeah. So with that, you give us your big German dialect word clankingly inserted.
Yes, with pleasure. Thank you. Big German dialect word clankingly inserted. Yeah. The problem with the German language is Germans, but really above all, not Adolf. Attack, always attack. Anderson, a chess master. Angriffen ihn angriffen from the 1800s. Chessophiles rooted for the successful and likable bloke. No, but rather the other, on whose birthday mine happens to land. When the casting director said I'd make an excellent Nazi, Scheiße. I lost my poem here in my manuscript, but it's coming back now. Scheiße. During the war, some of my kin were conscientious objectors in the stalemate of a jail. They belonged to a sect whose historic move was to refuse to take up arms against anyone. The broad term is Anabaptists, not the Taufreichen von Munster ones who formed a communal government in 1534, which enforced polygamy. No, not on your life, stimmt nicht. My ancestors were decidedly more monogamous and pacifist, a position that roundly got them slaughtered. They trekked to Russia for farmland for hundreds of years, poised as pawns for the empire. And then these Mennoniten, fled to North America, huddled in German all the livelong way, all drängten sich auf Plattdutsk. To be clear, they weren't the horse and buggy types you'll find in Peterborough and other checkerboard farmscapes. My great-grandparents were ever so slightly more modern, though still believing themselves to be a people apart. As a footnote to history, despite their pacifism, some Mennonites formed units for self-defense through the endgame of the Russian Civil War. My grandfather could have been one volunteer. Mein Großvater hat ein Freiwilliger sein können. His swift strike across the face of my mother's brothers sent stars reeling around their heads, possibly from the burnt-out tactics in the tendons of his large body. Under her mother tongue, Muttersprach, my mom studied strategies to safety through the striking constellations, and much later, when her husband fought unseen skirmishes from his head, our mother's smarts rose to the surface to protect us. To this day, her faith is encoded privately, and she coughs over the word love. She prefers math and games of strategy. Mahjong's on Monday, so don't call in the morning. We rarely talk about how she saw past poverty's near checkmate with some help from her Vota. When he came by, he had chickens. My older sisters were in charge of chopping off the head. Like many, I imagined myself adopted and rummaged through her bedroom closet for documents signed by my real parents. I rifled through so much of her private life, not knowing what went through my hands. Even a family tree seemed a forgery. Like many, I failed to imagine others groping in fear through the night. Wie groß bist du? Was the playful question. How tall are you? Her mom had asked her, which she passed on to her granddaughter one evening, a child's game of stretching arms up to reach for a castling height. So groß! As if by extension, one could stick out one's tongue to say more. You see, the problem with German is a problem all around. How is it that we've survived as parts of a body traced out of stars, which are themselves aligned so unstrategically? How have we fallen through the ages to sprawl in this miracle moment through which we reword ourselves with language that fails in the exceptions and exemptions of time's twists, burrows, and roots, while knowing that silence is the most articulate thing to come. Still ist das Artikelest, was kommen wird aus dem Nachthimmel, unser offen munter, from the night sky of our open mouths. Großdeutsch fliegt, dick, willkommen, Wickerswirt. I didn't get that last word right. I'll take any tips on pronunciation. Thank you.
That was delightful. And you read it so well.
Thank you.
You give me flashbacks to my childhood because my dad's family is German. And so it's like I was, my brother and I were like the little kids that understood nothing of what anybody was saying. But this time in hearing you read it, I really felt the weight of inheritance, that I could really feel that in this reading of it. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
And we did get a comment from Mitchell, and I'm not going to read that out loud. I'll let you pronounce that and translate it.
Gut Deutsch, Geschichte. Thank you.
I don't know what that, Mitchell, you'll have to Kevin is let us know what that means, Mitch. I don't know.
Schmuck.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for coming on again and reading that. I know you read it at a previous launch and when we announced the winners, and it was delightful then, and it's even more delightful now the second time through. And it's structurally an interesting poem too. So I encourage everyone to look at it in the manuscript.
And thank you so much to the editors for dealing with all the twists and turns of the poem, because it was a bit of a challenge in terms of, setting it
Yeah,
up.
Amanda did say it was the hardest poem she had ever laid out.
Big poem clankily inserted here.
Yeah.
But it looks wonderful, and it that's that movement on the page. It's such a part of it.
And thought up writer.
No, maybe creative.
Creative thought up writer. Okay. I'll put this. Utgedacht, I don't know. And then he also said, thanks, Mitch. All right. Well, why don't you stay on with us while we draw the next, I guess, the last of the prize draws. What have we got up for the next
$10 off coupon?
$10 off coupon.
We do have one more listed. I don't know if we have time for one more, but there are two.
Okay. Well, we'd have time.
Okay.
So, and we have number 8.
Alex Kitt.
Alex. Congratulations. Make sure Brooklyn knows where to send that. And we lost Brooklyn off the feed. I pulled everybody off when because we were getting some freezing, but she's disappeared. So hopefully she's still there. But anyway, Alex, let Brooklyn know your email address, even though I'm sure she has it, just so she knows where to send that. All right. And then how are we going? We have time. I was not going to read from the issue because we were already read from Corral, but we do have a few minutes left. So I will give a few paragraphs to Toinette because I don't want her to feel left out, which is the next episode of the Shepherdess. Oh, before we do that, I want to talk about our graphic novel for this issue. So I'll let you go, Kev. Thank you so much. It's a delight as always.
Thank you so much.
All
Have
right.
a great day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
And our comic this time around is by Mikhail Lopez and Enrico Orlandi. So Mikhail is he's a writer, a Swedish writer, and he's been published in many anthology, and he's been recently in 2 issues of Heavy Metal. I didn't realize Heavy Metal was still going. I have issues of that going back to the 80s. And his first collection of stories is A Cold Place Between the Shores. And next issue, we will have an excerpt of that collection, the short story A Cold Place. So look out for that. And then his artist on this particular one is Enrico Orlandi. He's an Italian artist. His first graphic novel, The Flower of the Witch, was published in 2019. And it's been translated into English by Dark Horse. And then he also has some untranslated ones. It's also translated into French, so you can find more of Enrico Orlandi's work in English through Dark Horse and in French through 404 editions. It's the colors in this are just startling. I don't think the video really does it justice. And I'm putting it in color because, of course, we have to do it in black and white in the magazine, which is always a regret. And when we get color submissions, we always think, oh, do we put them in? But it's still good in black and white. But here, just on this video only, you get to see the glorious color and very simple drawings, but very, very effective. So do take a look at that, and do check out Mikhail Lopez and Enrico Orlandi on their various web presences. And yes, the last, I'll just read a few words from the shepherdess, Grand-Mère Péri. And here we go. So this one is Toinette, our heroine, has gone to Paris looking for her benefactress. And she's encountered the flower seller that she met back when they were in Paris originally. And she's been sending him out on errands. So the spirits that he brought on Monday were clear and strong, but not pure enough. So I asked him for alembics and some copper tubes to distill it further, using methods I'd learned from Dr. Ahmed. On Thursday, the tubes arrived, and on Friday, far later than Luke's usual delivery hour, the alembics. On Sunday, when the bells of Saint Eustache had finished chiming, and I rose from my knees in front of the small statue of the Virgin in Madame's chamber, there was a knock at the door. I hurried down and was greeted at the kitchen door by a giant spray of white blossoms with a pair of legs. Mon Dieu, Luc, I exclaimed, ushering him into the kitchen where he laid the orange branches on the table. You are a miracle worker and an angel. And I should add here that she had asked him, he's been bringing her flowers, but she'd asked him for orange blossoms and he didn't have any. So you are a miracle worker and an angel, but what happened to your face? His left cheek sported a large red lump that was in the process of turning purple, and a fresh cut on his chin that still wept a bead of blood. He shrugged and tried to grin, though it made the cut weep more. I tripped. Tripped? On what? I hurried to the stove and dipped a cloth in the kettle. Will you be angry if I tell you? I frowned. Sit, I said. I hadn't dreamed of being angry till you asked that. I held his chin tilted upward with one hand while I dabbed at the cut with the other. Would you like a stitch or a scar? I asked. Will a scar make me more handsome, do you think? A scar will stop your beard from growing in that spot, and I think you can ill afford that. Wait while I fetch a needle. I gave him a swig of the spirits and a wooden spoon to bite while I drew the flesh closed with my needle. To his credit, he flinched little and moaned not at all. And I'll just stop there because we are at time. So thank you, everybody, for who participated in the launch. Thank you for our watchers, and especially those who've hung in till the end. And Jen, you said we have one more prize draw.
Yes, it's $20 off.
Whoa, that's enough to get you a novel, a print novel. All right.
I should say, though, my Discord wasn't cooperating, so I won't know.
Oh, okay. I've got
it.
Discord.
Okay.
All right, and the winner is number 4, Jessica Guernsey. So,
Nice.
Jessica, please get your contact information to Brooklyn, and she will send you that coupon for $20 off that you can use in our bookstore. Or if you happen to be local, you can bring it in and use it at the launch when there will be other fabulous deals. So again, I just want to reiterate, today only, Corral is available for 99 cents pre-order on Amazon.com. So go and get that now. It'll like slightly more than $1 on Amazon.ca and slightly less than 99p on UK, whatever. But that's the pricing they base it on. So the price will go up tomorrow. So get that today if you want. And then if you send us a proof of purchase, and we will put the form up. And we'll be sending it out in our newsletter. So if you don't get our newsletter, be sure to sign up for the newsletters. And you can submit your proof of purchase to us, and we will send you a $5 coupon. So you win. You spend 99 cents, you get $4 back.
If somebody was interested in doing their holiday shopping early, can this be like, could one buy a few?
Oh, yeah. Everybody who does this will get the $5 coupon. Everybody who sends in the proof of purchase will get a $5 coupon. But it's one per customer. And yes, do come out do come out to our launch. I'm going to put the Eventbrite link in the Google chat. So, or not in the Google chat, in the YouTube chat, so that you can go to Eventbrite and find that. Like I said, tickets are $10, but you get free tea and cookies, and you get a free ebook with that. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to do stuff in person. All right. Well, thank you, Jen, for everything, for all
Thank
your
you
help.
for everything.
And Brooklyn, even though you disappeared at the end, thank you while you were here. And if you've still got internet and are still seeing us. And to all our authors who read today, to Leo for running, for doing the winners of the Raven and for judging them. And all the shortlisted authors who came on and read 2 sentences. We deeply appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. And we will see you at the next launch. Oh, one more thing before I go. Don't forget the Bumblebee Flash Fiction Contest, which opens January 1st. So writers, get that writing going. pulpliterature.com/contests, easy to find. And be ready to jump in for the early bird rate from January 1st to 15th. And there's the ad for our holiday launch. So I will leave that as the end screen. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.